இப்பொழுது புதிய பொலிவுடன் தமிழ் பால் நன்மை முழுமை. Meenakshi Faculty of Pharmacy admissions open for B.Pharm. Apply now.
மணப்பெண்ணின் பிரத்யேகமான திருமணம் விவாஹா தி சென்னை சில்க்ஸ்.
A minute ago, there they are now. The crew's inside Dragon. We're just about to close the side hatch, and then we will go into the side hatch leak checks. A little bit later on this morning, an hour and 10 minutes from now, at T-minus 45 minutes, the launch director will pull the team for propellant load, and if we're go, propellant loading begins at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as with all of our launches to the International Space Station, next opportunity will be tomorrow at 2:09 a.m. Eastern. Now, I'll be keeping you updated this morning from the status desk in Hawthorne. With that, Ronnie and Paul, back to you.
Thanks, John. We'd love to give you viewers a moment just to get to know our crew. And so I want to start with Peggy. Today's mission commander is Peggy Whitson of the United States. And we actually don't have enough time to cover her entire resume, which is incredible to say the least. But to give you just a few highlights, Peggy earned degrees in biology, chemistry, and biochemistry. She was the first female commander of the International Space Station. She has spent over 675 total days in space, of which she's about to add a few more, and during which she logged 60 hours across 10 spacewalks. She's a two-time commander for Axiom Space, having previously served aboard AX-2, and she was just inducted as a member of the 2025 Astronaut Hall of Fame class. So congratulations, Peggy.
Next is mission pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of India, whose call sign as a test pilot is Shuks. Representing the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, Shuks is an astronaut designate of India's inaugural human spaceflight effort, Gangayaan, featuring an Indian-built rocket and spacecraft. He was commissioned into the Indian Air Force Fighter Wing in 2006. He achieved the rank of Group Captain in 2024 and has over 2,000 hours of flight experience aboard aircraft including the Sukhoi 30 MKI, MiG-29, Jaguar, Hawk, and Antonov An-32.
Our third crew member is mission specialist Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski of Poland. He is representing the European Space Agency as a project astronaut, coming from the reserve class of 2022, much like Marcus Want, who served as a mission specialist on AX-3 in January of 2024. A scientist by trade, Sławosz has earned his Master's of Science with honors from Łódź University of Technology in 2008. Additionally, he earned a Master of Science from Université de Nantes in France, as well as a graduate engineering diploma from Polytech Nantes in the same year. He also spent 2 years as the engineer in charge of the world-famous Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, beginning in 2018.
And rounding out our crew is mission specialist Tibor Kapu of Hungary, who represents the Hungarian to Orbit Astronaut Program, or HUNOR. The program aims to send Hungarian astronauts to the International Space Station for scientific research and technological development, as well as to inspire young people. He graduated from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, earning a degree in mechanical engineering, followed by a master's degree specializing in polymer technology. In 2023, Tibor emerged as one of 4 Hungarians selected from a pool of 247 candidates for the HUNOR astronaut program. He has invested a notable amount of time in his career focused on space radiation protection while awaiting his acceptance to HUNOR.
From the very beginning, Commander Whitson has set out to bring this group together to operate as a team.
And they come from different cultures, each tasked with their own mission and research priorities. But in this moment, they are one unit, and they have become friends who trust and respect each other immensely. So together, they are the crew of AX-4, Axiom Space's 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Today's flight represents the return to spaceflight for these 3 nations, but it also highlights the growing opportunities for many nations and entities around the world to conduct meaningful work in low Earth orbit. And right now, as Peggy, Shuks, Sławosz, and Tibor sit right there inside Dragon, there are colleagues, fans, and space enthusiasts the world over gathering to witness and cheer them on. We are just starting to get some visuals from different watch parties around the world, and so naturally, we're eager to show these to you. It's early in the morning for some, later in the day for others. And here we are seeing students and teachers at the Nar Hansre English School in Jamshedpur, India, gathering together to watch Shubhanshu lift off. Well, greetings and namaste, students.
And now we're checking in on Poland. The launch party there is taking place inside the Copernicus Science Center in Warsaw. We're waiting for a viewer's perspective because the whole webcast is displayed on the planetarium's dome there. The event is organized by the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, the Polish Space Agency, and the European Space Agency, so hopefully we'll get a chance to check in with them soon.
Yes, we'll check in with them again, I'm sure. As folks continue to gather at these watch parties, as well as others across each country, we look forward to sharing their excitement live again and again as we get closer to launch.
Speaking of the excitement as we get closer to launch, I'd like to check in with John I again and get some updates from the launch pad. John?
Well, right now, things are continuing to press on. T-minus 1 hour, 50 minutes. We have closed the side hatch, and we are getting ready to start the leak check. Now, we talked about the
Dragon
launch this
SpaceX
morning.
For the side hatch, the reinspection noted a
Right now
fiber
we're listening
as
to
a possible cause
communications on
of
the back
the
channels.
issue we saw earlier. So we have obviously reclosed the side hatch, and we're stepping into
Okay,
the
right
side
now,
hatch leak check
Dragon, we
repeat.
talked about an instantaneous
As we
window.
are in
We need
pad
an
hatch
efficient
closed,
orbit
we
to
are going
get to the space
repeat
station.
our health check for launch escape system, so you can expect momentary flight computer state change again, followed by transition back to pad hatch closed. How copy?
In your reinspection, you found the fiber, and we are looking forward to another flight computer transition like we had before as you repeat the leak check.
Yeah, that's a good readback.
Yeah, we're listening to Peggy Whitson talking to the ground team at SpaceX. They're getting ready to start the leak check. When they were getting ready to close the hatch, they found a fiber across one of the seals. They cleaned that up. So we're going to press into the leak check now. Fingers crossed that everything goes well. From time to time, we will be hearing the crew talking to the ground or vice versa, so we may stop our commentary right in the middle of everything if we hear something coming up. But I started talking about the instantaneous window, and that's because we need an efficient orbit to get to the space station. And the most efficient way to do that is to launch when the space station's orbit plane is passing over pad 39A. But it also means that you have to launch on a precise second this morning, and that's what we call the instantaneous window. Now, at pad 39A, the Earth is rotating at 900 miles an hour to the east. So if we were to delay launch by 15 minutes, the Earth's rotation alone would take us over 200 miles past the space station's orbit. And the errors you get launching too soon or too late, they're the ones that cost you the most propellant to try to make up. Now, while the orbit that the space station is flying in is going to be directly overhead at liftoff, the actual station may be several thousand miles away in its orbit. But that's a lot easier to fix. As Dragon gets into orbit, its speed will be a few hundred miles per hour different than the space station. And so in several hours, we can make up a couple thousand miles without a problem. So overall, it's kind of like catching up to your friends on a highway. If you're on the same highway, you can speed up or slow down to catch up with the other automobile. It just takes you some time. But if you end up on parallel highways separated by 15 minutes, you're going to have a hard time catching up to your friends. And that concludes today's segment of My Friend, Orbital Mechanics. With that, back to you, Ronnie and Paul.
Awesome. Thanks, John. After a successful liftoff and orbital insertion, the AX-4 crew are set to rendezvous and dock with the International Space Station tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern. They'll spend approximately 14 days aboard the orbiting laboratory, bringing the total occupancy count up to 11.
And upon entering the International Space Station, the AX-4 crew will be greeted by the current expedition crew members with a welcome ceremony, which we look forward to showing. This will be followed by a handful of onboarding exercises with the station commander, but then each crew member will immediately jump into their scheduled mission timeline. For the next 14 days, every minute of their workday will be scheduled with public engagements, science, research tasks, and a variety of activities that are unique to microgravity. To prepare for this endeavor, this crew has spent the last 10 months working with instructors and subject matter experts to learn every system they will be interfacing with on station. They have studied and practiced every experiment, reviewed and rehearsed every event, all to maximize their time in space. Collectively, this crew is undertaking the largest quantity of scientific with over 60 research activities on their timeline, representing 31 different countries. Missions like AX4 continue to expand what is possible, setting the stage for even greater opportunities to come.
At the conclusion of their time on the station, the crew will participate in a closing farewell ceremony and begin their preparations for the journey back to Earth. Currently, that flight is targeting just about 2 weeks from today for both return and splashdown.
And so while the teams are progressing towards launch there on the launch pad, why don't we look back at what some of those efforts have been to get them to this point? For context, this crew has been living in an isolated quarantine bubble for the last 4 weeks, having reported to quarantine on May 25th. In that time, they have shifted their sleep regimens to adjust their circadian rhythm to match those on board the International Space Station. And over the last few days, they have finessed that further to be ready for this moment. So earlier this evening, the Axiom Space Ground Operations team drove the AX4 crew to Kennedy Space Center, where they shared a brief moment with loved ones before being officially handed over to SpaceX for launch. This handover event has taken on many forms over the years, but there is always something special about creating a moment, even for just a few minutes, in the midst of all of the operational choreography that we're doing, to pause and just share a moment human to human. And so here you are seeing the crew in front of their loved ones before getting in board the Teslas that took them out to the Falcon Support Building.
These are fantastic photos taken from earlier today. After the T-minus 4-hour briefing, SpaceX team helped the crew suit up. There they are exiting the Falcon Support Building, which is just about a half-mile away from the launch pad. Then, of course, they get into the Tesla Caravan together to go to Launch Complex 39A. You can see them moving into the Teslas there. We do, of course, divide the crew into 2 sets. So you're seeing some of our SpaceX support ninjas in the background there. Very excited crew on their way over to 39A. Once they reach the base of the tower, they do stop to take in Falcon 9 and Dragon, which is always my favorite shot, is getting to see this crew see their spacecraft for the first time in their suit on the lead up to launch. Here they are walking across the crew access arm before ingressing or entering. Here you are. You can see we've got our SpaceX team is checking the boarding passes of our crew before they get on board today.
Peggy's is gold, as
yes,
I see.
You'll notice that Peggy's indicates that she is a frequent flyer with us here at SpaceX. Then, of course, our crew has the opportunity to sign the wall in the White Room, as all the astronauts who have launched from that tower have before them. And then one by one, they ingress or enter the spacecraft. Got some great views here of them hugging this team goodbye. And as you mentioned earlier, Paul, they've been working together with these teams here for the last 10 months preparing for today.
You're right. So much of that is not just the work that they're going to do on station, but a lot of that is also just this moment, rehearsing with their closeout crew to prepare for getting into Dragon. And all of these steps have been rehearsed time and time again and practiced. Seeing them walk out, seeing the smiles on their faces right now is just a defining characteristic of this crew. They have really bonded over these last 10 months and really taken every challenge in stride. And you can just see it in their faces today. All of that work is paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we've got video that was recorded earlier of us putting those safety harnesses onto our crew. You can think of them kind of like a seatbelt, but they're a little bit more high-tech than that. And then after that, we do attach umbilicals to the capsule, which provide both breathing air and comms to Dragon. Then we step into suit leak checks and comms checks, which were completed earlier today, before rotating the seats into a reclined position for launch. We do that to make sure that the G-forces are going right through the chests of our astronauts to keep them as comfortable as possible on their roller coaster ride to space. Then our closeout team closes and seals the hatch and performs a leak check, which John gave us an update on a little bit earlier. The closeout team has since departed the pad, and final weather checks are coming up at this point, which is needed before that final go or no-go for launch is given. The crew, of course, now with that great shot of them on board your screen, is waiting to get the green light to stow the crew arm for launch and arm the launch escape system. Once our launch director gives that go-ahead, we should get a great view of the access arm moving away from the spacecraft. That's also going to be one of our last major visual milestones that we'll see before liftoff that takes about 2 minutes to complete. From there, we'll hear the call out that Falcon 9 propellant loading is ready to begin, and we will be in that final countdown for launch. Great images here on your screen. Of course, we have Dragon on the left-hand side and live views from inside of our capsule with all of those events that led up to getting our 4 AX4 crew members seated and ready for liftoff.
Dragon SpaceX, good news. Our second side hatch leak check was successful.
And great news there from Mission Control.
We are happy to hear that. Great. Encouraged.
So as John mentioned earlier, we did do a second leak check today to make sure that that side hatch was closed properly. And with that confirmation from Mission Control and acknowledgement by the crew, we are moving forward with today's launch.
Obviously, Peggy has been through this once before successfully, and it is the first time for the other 3 crew members. But just seeing each of them all together as a team there inside Dragon is a sight that's, well, it's just rewarding to see. We've shared a bit about our crew members on this AX4 mission, but to properly introduce them and the space agencies they represent, we're going to send you now out to Axiom Space's Sonia Gavan-Carmaquet, who's joining us from the press site at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Sonia, you're only 3 miles from the launch pad. How is the energy out there?
The energy is amazing. The weather is fantastic. It's a little chilly in this room, but we're just hot for this mission. So we're excited to tell you more about the crew, their missions, and what they're going to accomplish on the ISS. This is a special moment for India, Poland, and Hungary. Let's turn our attention now to each space agency represented on board the AX4 mission, beginning with the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. Their crew member, Shubhanshu Shukla, or Shuks, is our mission pilot. ISRO has been involved in space exploration for over 50 years, but only recently has put a clear emphasis on human exploration. Shuks is making that goal a reality today.
From the Indian Space Research Organization, AX4 pilot Shubhanshu Shukla.
Namaste. I'm Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla.
A fighter pilot for 15 years, he was selected as one of 4 Indian astronauts in 2020.
Captain Shukla, are you ready for the ride? Will you do some yoga in space like your idol Rakesh Sharma did in 1984?
The first Indian astronaut, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, traveled to space in 1984. I grew up reading about him in textbooks and listening to his stories from space. I was deeply, deeply impressed by him. This journey that I'm on, it has been a long one for me. And it started out somewhere. I didn't know that this is the path it is going to finally take. I would say that I've been extremely fortunate and extremely lucky to have gotten the opportunities to first fly all my life, which was a dream job for me, and then have the opportunity to apply to astronaut corps, and now consequently be here. The way this worked out for me was that probably a week before we arrived at Axiom was the time I came to know that I would be going. I was extremely excited to be here. I was very, very happy because this was a possibility for me to actually fly to space. You don't know how to respond to such things.
Shooks his wisdom. The knowledge that he possesses, he could be 130 years old.
For me, having him as my pilot in the Dragon capsule is great. He already has that operational savvy. You know, he's just wicked smart when it comes to spacecraft technologies.
He is very focused and he will basically go 1, 2, 3, 4 in a record time. I don't even know how he gets there so fast.
The team that I'm flying with on this mission, it is fantastic. I do feel that, I have exceptional crewmates. I will have these crew members for this one flight, but post this mission, these are going to be my friends for life. It has been an amazing journey. These are moments that really tell you that you are getting to be a part of something that is much larger than yourself. I can only say how extremely fortunate I am to be a part of this. It is my sincere endeavor through my mission to inspire an entire generation back home in the country. I want to use this opportunity to ignite curiosity among kids. Even if this story, my story, is able to change one life, it would be a huge success for me. I am Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, and I am the mission pilot for Axiom Mission.
I'm joined now by Prasanth Balakrishnan Nair, a fellow Gaganyaan astronaut from ISRO. Papa has trained alongside Shukla for the past 10 months as the backup mission pilot. Papa, thanks for being here today, although I can't imagine where else you'd want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Sonia, for having me.
Well, let's talk about Shukla a little bit. When was the first time you met, and what was that meeting like, and what was your impression of him?
Oh, he's a fantastic guy. So we met a few years back. We are both fighter pilots and we are test pilots. So when we got selected for our own Gaganyaan program, that's when we met. And very few people know this. I am 9 years older to him.
Oh, really?
But I look younger.
You do.
Yeah. See, I'm not hair still hasn't come out. Yeah, but that's when we met. And Shukla has been a fantastic guy. In the last 10 months when we have been training here, it has been such a satisfying thing for me to be his wingman. Okay, as a fighter pilot lingo.
Right.
And he's got that drive and that focus in him on what he wants in life. Once he decides, like for example, to be the first Indian to go to the International Space Station,
right,
he puts that over there, focuses on it, puts his entire resources and his mind into it, removes all other obstacles, and he's there right now.
Well,
and that's what he is.
That's amazing and shows why he's in that pilot seat.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 10 months of training that you all went through. What was a point that stuck out to you? What was the overall experience like?
The overall experience was, I didn't know whether it was work. It was more like, coming to one big picnic, and imagine you're doing space training.
Yeah.
And in that, when you can actually make it really cool, at the same time professional, that has been our experience. It's been really marvelous, training with Axiom, NASA, SpaceX, with the other countries, and Peggy. It's been fantastic.
A legend. You get to train with a legend. Now, I have seen you do some of the training, but the food training, I think maybe was one of your favorites?
Yeah, well, you can't, the army marches on its stomach, right? Yeah, and the astronauts also fly to space on our stomach only, yeah. The food was the fantastic part, and we went for this NOLS training, National Outdoor Leadership School in
Where
Baja.
you really got to bond as a team.
It was fantastic, because we realized it's in such situations when we are kayaking and the weather was down and when the resources are low and the only thing we have to back on is each other. It was fantastic to know each other really threadbare. And it was beautiful, because these are those moments when you train as a team that we come to know not just the strong points, but the limitations.
Right.
Because when going to space or doing such kind of activity, the most important thing is to know your teammates' weak points so that you can be there to support them.
Right. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Papa, for being here. Good luck to you. Good luck to India. Good luck to the entire ISRO agency. We're here now, finally. Good luck.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me. And I want to, on behalf of Axiom and all, give a big shout out to my Prime Minister, my Chairman, my wife Lena, and my daughter Nandini, and my parents, and everyone back home. Thank you, everyone, and all my countrymen.
Indeed.
Jai Hind.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Well, let's meet our next crew member. We'll take a closer look at Sławosz Uznański-Wisniewski and the return to space flight for the nation of Poland. Sław is continuing and growing the partnership between Axiom Space and ESA. His scientific background and energetic spirit make him an incredible asset and truly engaging addition to this diverse crew.
I think both mountains and sailing, my head gets clear. I'm focused on how to choose my path.
How are you?
Good, very good.
Congratulations.
Second peak, 6,000 meters.
How's it feel?
Good, perfect.
How I see the world is out there for us to enjoy it. When we live, we try to understand, and actually this is a lifelong learning.
Representing Poland, Easter Project astronaut Sławosz Uznański-Wisniewski.
Sławosz Uznański-Wisniewski. His name is a mouthful, so we quickly gave him the call sign Sław.
He is an engineer from CERN. He is a project astronaut. He is a mountaineer. He is a sailor. And he is so good looking after that.
Sław is surprised. He is a kind of guy whose country should be proud of.
We are the European Organization for Research, known as CERN.
What CERN does? CERN studies what the world is made of, colliding these particles and seeing what happens after and what are the smallest building blocks of nature. In my work as an engineer, I try to understand what happens around, how to build better systems, how to solve certain problems, and that's, I think, the way how I look at the world. In Europe, we had 5 selections for astronauts since the beginning of the European Space Agency. I followed some of the astronauts, for example, Luca Parmitano, when he was changing the cooling system of the AMS detector, the CERN design. I had no idea if it was going to happen during my life or not. I was a scientist.
Getting their boarding passes handed to them and checked by our closeout team. You'll notice that Peggy Whitson's is gold because she is a frequent flyer with us here at SpaceX. And then once our crew ingressed Dragon, we completed suit leak checks and comm checks before rotating the seats into the reclined position for launch. Love these videos of them up in the White Room there. You can see those signatures on the wall behind them, hugging the closeout team before ingressing the capsule. Then from there, that is the same team that closes the hatch and seals everything in the preparation for launch. Right now, we are still waiting on those final weather checks coming up, but prop load has begun. So all of that brought us through the confirmations we've been listening to, the check-ins, confirming that the crew arm is stowed, and of course, as we were listening so intently for earlier today, that our launch escape system is armed. With that, we are just over 31 minutes away from today's liftoff.
Incredible. That White Room is got a lot of history in it already.
And lots more to come, which is really exciting.
Yes, we are just adding another chapter to this storied location. That 39A has got so much history already.
So, of course, everything about today is really timelined down to the minute. As we were talking about earlier today, the crew wake up all the way through launch. We have this kind of precise choreography that is key to our launch site execution. Each of the calls we're hearing, the visual cues that we're seeing, and that we're acknowledging to you who are joining us from around the world, serve as critical synchronization.
Stage 1, cryohelium loading.
There's confirmation there that we're loading the cryohelium on board stage 1 of Falcon 9. And each of these milestones are critical synchronization points for both the ground and crew teams. As they say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since Dragon radically changed how humanity gets to space. After the space shuttle program ended in 2011, NASA astronauts primarily used the Russian Soyuz spacecraft for travel to the International Space Station. Until 2020, Dragon was the Russian Soyuz spacecraft was the only human-capable launch vehicle available. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Dragon was being developed, and then in 2010, it became the first commercial spacecraft to be recovered from orbit. In fact, just for fun, because it's cool to know, the Dragon that flew on that first commercial mission is actually the one hanging behind us here in front of Mission Control in Hawthorne. Since then, Dragon has supported 17 human spaceflight missions and flown 66 crew members representing 17 countries. Overall, Dragon has flown 52 missions, carrying over 1,000 experiments and over 300,000 pounds of cargo to space.
And each of those missions represents a host of firsts that have helped shape this generation of spaceflight. To fully appreciate the progress being made together with SpaceX and NASA, it's worth noting that Axiom Space's 3 missions to date have helped provide greater access for nations and researchers, setting new precedents for private astronaut efforts aboard the International Space Station. And AX-4 adds to that growing flight heritage.
After a successful liftoff and orbital insertion, the AX-4 crew are set to rendezvous and dock with the International Space Station tomorrow. They'll spend approximately 14 days aboard the orbiting laboratory, bringing the occupancy count up to 11.
And over the last 10 months, this crew has been working with instructors to learn every system they will be working with on station. They have studied and practiced every experiment, reviewed and rehearsed every event, all to maximize that time in space. Collectively, this crew is undertaking the largest quantity of research efforts of any Axiom space mission to date, with over 60 research activities on their timeline, representing 31 different countries. Missions like these continue to expand what is possible and set the stage for even greater opportunities to come.
Then, at the conclusion of their time on station, the crew will participate in a closing farewell ceremony and begin their preparations for the journey back to Earth. As we've mentioned a couple of times, that'll be about 14 days from today.
Each mission to the International Space Station is rooted in singular unifying purpose, to explore and learn together as a team. And that is one of the things that I absolutely love about human spaceflight. The International Space Station is a symbol of what can be realized from international cooperation and collaboration. And so while this particular mission may represent the goals of 4 specific nations, today they are launching as one crew, one team. And in that spirit, this crew created a mark to represent their shared effort together. The AX4 mission patch is something that Peggy, Shukla, Swavesh, and Tibor will wear proudly for the rest of their lives. But so will thousands of people who've worked tirelessly to contribute to this mission.
The mission patch for Axiom 4 was created, as you mentioned, by the crew, not just to mark their space flight, but to symbolize the idea that space is for everyone. Anchored by the centrality of the Earth and flanked by a diverse set of national flags, there are several intended meanings woven into this design. For instance, the 7 stars represent the 7 continents and point to global inclusivity.
The 4 white lines ascending from the Earth to the International Space Station symbolize the physical journey of this mission, and together appear to make panes of a spacecraft window, much like the view the astronauts will have from Earth orbit. And the overall gem shape of the patch is a reminder of the precious responsibility we all have to our planet, to cherish and to protect our homeworld. And in addition to the mission patch, another favorite tradition of human spaceflight is the zero-G indicator. To celebrate their unique bond, the AX4 crew chose a baby swan as the zero-G indicator, which they've named Joy. And today, we have the opportunity to have our very own Joy joining us to help us keep an eye on the gravity levels here in Hawthorne. And so far, pretty stable.
Yeah, all systems nominal, I would say.
Very, very nominal. Yes.
So as we await our T-0 in a little bit more than 25 minutes, our ground operations teams are doing a final series of systems checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready for launch. Let's take a look at what the Ascent portion of our mission today will look like.
Start of Stage 2 cryohelium loading.
Brief announcement on Stage 2 loading. Once we hit T0, we're going to watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic launch pad 39A and make their ascent. At about 43 seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, or what we typically refer to as max Q. Now, it's worth noting that shortly after we hit max Q, the vehicle will go supersonic, faster than the speed of sound.
Once we're through that period of maximum dynamic pressure, we throttle up our Merlin engines again. From there, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, we have a series of 3 events that happen in rapid succession. The first is main engine cutoff, also called MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines shut off in preparation for stage separation. Stage sep is when the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event.
Now, SES-1, or second stage engine start number 1, that's where the Merlin vacuum engine lights up and propels the second stage along with our AX4 crew and Dragon into orbit. Now, as Stage 2 heads into the targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 3 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the boost back burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines reignite and then shut down. That heads the first stage back to Cape Canaveral.
The second burn, or the entry burn, helps to slow the first stage down in preparation for entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. About 70 seconds before Dragon reaches orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn will bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to land back on land near the launch site, shortly before 8 minutes into our mission.
And then a little less than a minute after that, at T plus 8 minutes 48 seconds, the second stage will cut off its 1 Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. That concludes a burn that lasts just over 6 minutes to get into orbit, but we'll wait to hear confirmation of insertion into a good orbit. Then Dragon and the second stage begin preparations to separate Dragon. About 51 seconds after we get into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with the 4-person crew drifting away in Dragon, moving away from the second stage. Once Dragon's a short distance away, it'll begin checkout of the Draco maneuvering thrusters. That'll make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
The nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and finish around T plus 15 minutes, exposing Dragon's docking mechanism in advance of arrival at the International Space Station. Speaking of which, we should hand it back now to Sandra Jones at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas, for a quick update. Sandra?
Thanks, Ronnie. The space station team here in Houston is focused on the critical systems of the International Space Station, all continuing to function as expected ahead of launch. Everything is looking good, and the station will be ready to receive Dragon and the Axiom 4 crew on Thursday. After Dragon is fully docked to the orbiting laboratory, the team here in Houston will assist the Axiom space and space station astronauts with leak checks as they work to open hatches on both Dragon and inside the station's pressurized mating adapter. We expect hatch opening to take place approximately 2 hours after docking. Once the Axiom 4 crew arrives at the International Space Station, they will be greeted by the Expedition 73 crew, which includes NASA astronauts Nicole Ayers, Anne McClain, and Johnny Kim, as well as JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takoya Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Kirill Peskov, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zubrsky. Flight Director Heidi Brewer is on console right now, leading the flight controllers for launch this evening. And with Mission Control in Houston go for launch, for now, we'll send it back over to Sonia at Kennedy.
Thanks, Sandra. To dive into some of the science highlights, I'm joined now by Axiom Space's Chief Scientist, Dr. Lucy Lowe. Lucy, thanks for joining me here at the desk. With so many science portfolios that are going to be accomplished. There are more than 60 from more than 30 countries. We can't cover it all. Give us a high-level look of what this portfolio looks like.
Yeah, so happy to, Sonia. So this mission is chock-a-block, jam-packed full of really interesting and exciting science. We have everything from human research, understanding how the human body reacts to space. We have some really fun life sciences experiments looking at growing plants and all kinds. We have some physical sciences. We have lots of technology demonstrations. And my favorite, lots of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics outreach events.
All the STEAM things.
Exactly.
So we've had great success with AX1, 2, 3. Do we have any return payload flyers for AX4?
We do. We have our partners at the University of California, San Diego and the Sanford Stem Cell Institute flying their cancer cells in low Earth orbit for the 4th time with Axiom. So this team is actually looking at how the cancer cells respond to space. And on this mission, they're actually testing a newly approved drug that's just about to enter clinical trials.
Amazing.
So really exciting.
So let's take just a brief look at each of the country's portfolios. Let's start at the head.
At the top, okay, off we go. So we're going to bring on our willing participant who is going to model, our lovely assistant who is going to model one of the experiments from this portfolio. So Israel here is wearing a functional near-infrared spectroscopy cap, which has optodes in the top, which can actually look at how blood is moving around, which is a correlate for neural activity. So it's a way to actually monitor brain activity in space. And what the team is doing is looking at these signals and how they're going to collect the data. And they're actually creating what they're calling a brain-computer interface or a brain-machine interface, which could be really interesting and useful not only for future exploration missions, but also for applications back here on Earth. So, for example, for rehabilitation after neurological disorders.
And which country's portfolio is this from?
This is from ESA and the Polish Space Agency.
Amazing. So what is ISRO doing? What's their portfolio look like?
So ISRO has a very, very busy portfolio. So Shukla is going to be doing lots and lots of research throughout the mission. So their team is going to be looking at cyanobacteria and microalgae, and they're going to be looking at how these could be used for food or for fuel or for potentially even life support systems on orbit in the future. The team is also looking at muscle cells. They're seeing how muscle cells respond to access to microgravity. So when the human goes into space and there are changes, physiological changes that happen very quickly that can impact the muscle cells. And so the team is going to be looking at some of these changes to muscle cells in space and then applying that understanding understanding, not only to developing countermeasures for future crew, but also to take that learning and then understand more about diseases that might affect muscle wasting back here on Earth.
I wish that this was on so we could see if anything was lighting up with Israel. Thank you so much for helping with this. I'm going to turn this way and I'm going to get the Dyros B project. Israel, thanks for joining us here, showing off the headset there. This is fascinating. While I manipulate this, like they're going to do in space, which basically makes me an astronaut, I'm going to also hum Bach.
You should do. So this is a project from Hunor, flying this research. And this is actually looking at fluid dynamics in space. So we've put this tape on for artistic purposes. Tibor will not have this disco tape on orbit. But in space, what is going to happen is this will be surrounded by a ball of water that's going to have microparticles embedded in it. And as a video is recording and he's turning the handle...
To music.
To music, exactly. The tempo at which he's turning the handle is going to increase, not too much, as he's listening to Bach. So he's going to know exactly how fast to turn the handle. And so the insight from research like this is going to help us understand some of the fluid dynamics around large bodies such as Saturn in our own solar system.
So it's not just for fun.
It's not just for fun. It's all very important.
If there is a researcher who's watching now and says, I've got research that I want to get into low Earth orbit, how do they do that?
They come talk to us. Go onto the website, get in touch, and we'd love to fly more research like this and do more cool science in space.
Such cool science. Thank you so much, Lucy, for making it just understandable for the general public. And we can't wait to see how it all plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. And, you know, the X4 mission is very exciting, and the families and friends want to be here, but some of them couldn't. So we want to share with you now just a little taste of the friends and family who are cheering on the entire AX4 crew. Peggy, Shooks, Swa, and Tibor. A great group of teammates who are doing great things for their countries, and here are the folks who have been supporting them all along the way.
On behalf of the Axiom Mission Operations team, we're wishing you a safe, productive, and fun mission. Go AX4.
You are our hero. Tara api prapiante.
Cześć Sławosz, kochany synu, jesteśmy z ciebie bardzo dumni.
Isfiam, büszkék vagyunk rád.
Várunk vissza.
Nagyon szeretünk.
Hi, Shooks. We're super excited about your visit to space. Come back triumphant. We'll all be cheering for you the whole while that you're there.
Your flight is our future. The flight is our inspiration.
Hi, Sławosz. We are about to do something truly out of this world. We are all here rooting for you.
Go chase those stars and make the mission.
இப்பொழுது புதிய பொலிவுடன் தமிழ் பால் நன்மை முழுமை. மீனாட்சி Faculty of Pharmacy admissions open for B.Pharm. Apply now.
மணப்பெண்ணின் பிரத்யேகமான திருமணம் விவாஹா தி சென்னை சில்க்ஸ்.